welcome to Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Burchell. Follow me on Instagram and see pictures of what I'm up to before they hit YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share both of my social medias with your crafty friends. Today we have Index Card a Day number 16. It's called ASAP, Always Say a Prayer. This time I'm using a technique which hasn't yet been made into a mixed media technique tag. I'll be using napkins. Links to products can be found in the description box below. So today what we're going to do is an ICAD using napkins. And I have a stash of napkins, and yes, I'm guilty. I have not used them to the extent that I should use them. So this was a technique. It hasn't been made into a technique tag video yet. I will do it, and I will explore different things with it as I do. But what you need to do first off is take the excess, the extra layers off. And I find just by wetting your finger, taking it off in the corner, it kind of helps. This can be finicky, and you can bet your bottom dollar as soon as you get on video it isn't going to work. But you peel off, and depending on the napkin it'll have one or two. Now don't throw these out, because these are great for stamping on and then adhering onto a background. And this tissue, this napkin paper, tends to dissipate and disappear, and so all you have is the stamped image. And I'll put a link to a video where I show that I'm using that technique. But don't. So I'm just getting some gel medium on my hands. Oh, and there, it just kind of pulls it up a little bit. Sometimes they come off all in one piece, and sometimes they do not. So, like here, it did not come off in one piece for whatever reason. So I grabbed my script stamp, but you can do this with any textured stamp, any stamp at all, quite honestly. And that will put the print underneath, and it will just kind of peek through. So we're just going to try this, and I'm just using my archival because I do not want it to activate. And I'm putting it right onto the gessoed ICAD that I have here. I will note that on many of my ICADs, even though they have a coat of gesso, you can still see, well, maybe not the, there you go, you can still see the numbers. So I did add a little extra gesso to this. Okay. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a dry because I do not want this to smear. And we're going to try to directly glue it on to the ICAD. So kind of just going to get little bits in here. And this is just my matte medium fluid. I figured since I'm diluting the other one, I might as well just start with this since I have that. But if you don't have both, that's... Whoops. There we go. Press that on. And then you get that lovely script peeking through. It even comes through a little bit on the picture. You see it most where there's white space, but you do see a bit through the picture. So I'm just going to dry this and cut around it. Okay, so these are butterflies that I cut out of scrapbook paper. I was fussy cutting one day and I have just loads of these in my butterfly stash, in my envelope here. And as I'm flipping through, I'm thinking, okay, are these going to go? And the colors are not quite right. I kind of like that one, but what I thought I would try is just to paint over some colors just to get a little more contrast than what is there. So I'm just going to paint right over these. Now they've got some glitter. I'm not sure if you can make out the sparkles that are there. So I'm thinking that's going to act like a resist. I just want to get, a little brighter color here. And I'm just watering down the acrylic. Oh, that one kind of lost its tail. Okay, well there it is. So I've got that on there. So I'm thinking, I like that contrast. I like that pink and the purple. So maybe I have two here now. We'll paint one more here. What I don't use, of course, will just go back into the stash, right? So what you need to do is then just wipe it off the sparkle. And it does act as a resist. I did one in purple. I'm kind of going for the pink, but this isn't quite vibrant enough. I'm going to give it another coat. So even when you have scrapbook papers or whatever, don't think that you cannot change them to be more what you want them to be. Okay, so I have my quote, ASAP, always say a prayer, and I think I'm going to put it down there. I'm going to put this in the middle. Now my background needs a little something something. So I'm going to start off with, I have some paint over here that was left over from when I colored my butterflies, and I want to introduce that color to the background. So I'm just going to add water here with my fan brush, and I'm going to do some splatters. And that's just going to put some of that color into the background. Now because it's napkin, it is kind of wicking out a little bit. And I think what would solve that problem, if you put a coat of clear gesso on top of that, that will change. And you can see how that is, how it looks. It's kind of wicking out a little bit. It's not quite a solid speck. So you can learn from my mistake and maybe do that. If you don't, you know, it's not the end of the world. It just gives a different, looks more like watercolor drops than, you know, less opaque, I guess. And then I'm just going to go around the edge with that color. I'm not sure if I'm going to come follow with purple. Or black. And I'm using Ranger cut and dry foam here, and I talked about that in the last video. You can use a makeup sponge. I find the makeup sponge kind of crumbles and falls apart when I do this, and the Ranger cut and dry foam doesn't do that. It comes in larger sheets than this, and then you can cut it to whatever shape. You can use this side to imprint stamps and get a reverse stamp. There's other uses, and you have to Google them. Which is something I've had in my stash that, you know, I'm saving for what, right? I thought, no, I'm going to start using those things. I kind of like how that black with the pink that was on there is kind of balancing everything out. Now, I think I want to paint the center and one of the antennae has fallen off, so I'm going to have to paint that on. I'm debating, you could also splatter with some purple on there, you could splatter with some of the green that's in there, but I think I'm going to go less is more on this one. Just going to edge that. Thinking I want to have a little bit of bling in here because to match the bling, and I'm going to use some silver. Just going to thin it out up here. I'm really liking the addition of the silver, and I think I just diluted the pink too much because I'm not having that problem. It's not wicking out, the silver isn't, as much as what the pink did, so I think that was my technical difficulty. And I flipped the card here suddenly because it just occurred to me that I could. And I like this better. It's just more pleasing to my eye. Sometimes you need to, don't be afraid to do that. Often when you do that, you kind of go back to the first thing that you did. I'm not going to lie. I've heard other crafters saying that as well. Kind of liking it. Oops. It's a little flat because it's not paper, so I'm thinking this might make it look like it's more all one piece here. And if your eyes aren't, I did splatter with some purple. I couldn't help myself. So, ICAD number 16, ASAP. Always say a prayer. Bye for now.